Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by once again. I'd like to bring you up to date on what's going on down here, as I hope we're all going to be able to see you at some point in the not-too-distant future. Let me just bring you up to date. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in our neighbors that may give us some indication of what the future is at our end too or not. We'll see. But for the moment, we are opening up. There's no question about it. There's plenty of people out in the traffic. We used to have, as you've probably heard, we had men had 3 days a week to be out, women 3, and so on. That's all gone next week. We still have a curfew and so on. There'll be certain restrictions. Some portions of the country in the rural areas, I don't know yet exactly which ones as of next week. I have to check and see, but it's not of importance to you right at the moment. But some of them are still restricted in where they can travel. But that's all going to take care of itself, I'm sure, by the middle of October, because if we're going to be letting international people in, then they're going to have to be able to get around the country. So if we can't get around the country, then it makes it pretty messy. So I'm not too terribly concerned about that. You're going to see us probably in full steam if you're coming down. If everything opens up, we'll be steaming along. We may be wearing face masks, I'm sure we will, but we'll at least have everything else pretty much rolling, and thank heavens for that. Now, that's assuming a lot in advance, and we've assumed in the past only to have things go wrong. But in this instance, everybody in this area is keeping an eye on Costa Rica because they opened up earlier than anybody else. They've been open for a while now, and they're in really serious financial trouble, and they need money. All right. At the same time, they're very much concerned that they go through a second wave of COVID. And they don't want to think about that. They're very proud of their health system, and they don't want to put it under this stress again. So they've taken an unusual approach. I'm going to share this with you because everyone's watching it. That's all. We don't do what they do just because they do it, and they don't do what we do just because we do it. And we're different countries. We're quite different in our approach to many things. So don't assume that just because they do it in Costa Rica one way that we're going to follow. I think they may turn out to be much more cautious, basically because they were the first off the block to do it. And, that's always got some problems associated with it when you're the first ones out the door. Okay, I'm going to read to you, for the sake of the Americans particularly, because some may be coming to Costa Rica as well, I don't know, but you have to understand that people are looking at your country as a collection of states as opposed to just Americans from the U.S. So your state residency is the important thing here. Elsewhere, it's your residency in a nation. But for the U.S., at the moment, it's from the state you're residing in. And the states chosen are based on the most recent statistics regarding infections and how they're working out and so forth and direction, blah, blah, blah. So they've been doing it in pieces. Now I'm going to be reading some of this just to let you know. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Okay. Now, as of September 1st, which is already underway, of course, the states that had been approved were Connecticut, Maine, Maryland, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. As of September 15th, which is next Monday, the following will be added to that: Colorado, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Washington, Oregon, Wyoming, Arizona, New Mexico, Michigan, and Rhode Island. And scheduled at the moment for October 1st is California. So that's not even half of the states yet. Obviously, states like Texas and Florida have yet to be included. But, that's the way it is. They will be. I'm sure more states will be added. I have no doubt, because they do need the money. But also because there'll be, hopefully, some improvements in stats that'll give them the reason to do that. Here it is. In fact, I'll tell you exactly how they look at it. Their tourism minister says the country evaluates a state's new coronavirus cases per 100,000 inhabitants over the last 2 weeks as the primary deciding factor into whether to allow its residents to enter. Okay. All right. Now, that's the reason. So be it. Now, okay. All right. Now, the requirements for tourists. This is a little bit interesting, too. Again, I'm talking about Costa Rica here. So let's not make any mistakes and say, Bob said this was going to happen in Panama. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying it's happening right next door. They require from each person coming in what they call is a health pass. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but probably a discussion of your health and whether you've had the virus and so forth and what have you. But the most important things is the sign that you've had a negative, what's called a PCR test, a negative test for the coronavirus that is current, that is within, in their case, within 72 hours of your departure. So if it's 5 days, it's 120 hours before your departure when you get the negative test, that's not good enough. You're not getting on the plane. You've got to keep it under 72 hours. In Panama, for folks, citizens and residents coming down who are now allowed in, they had it 48 hours, which, if you know anything of what's going on in the States, is really pushing it. And people are having serious problems. And one of you was, and I know I was in correspondence with that gentleman, and he had a tough time, let me tell you. But he managed to make it. And we've talked to people here, and the end result is that now it's 96 hours, so we're now longer than Costa Rica. So you'll have, at the moment, as things are set up now, for residents and for citizens, it's 96 hours in advance of departure. I would assume it's going to be the same for everybody by the time we get to October 12th, but who knows? There may even be new tests out by then that are simpler or less complicated. I don't know. But that's the need. Then they have something that has not been mentioned here. I have heard no talk about it, although I'm sure it's being discussed. And that is they require that tourists bring with them or pay for insurance that covers them. I'll read you exactly what they're talking about. This can be either a pre-approved Costa Rican policy or an international policy that covers COVID-19, and it's specific to this virus, medical expenses of at least $50,000 and $2,000 for lodging. Okay, and you've got to have that or you can't get into the country. Fair enough. They have, I believe, 1 or 2 private companies who offer it, and the government also has their policy that offers it, and I guess some international plans also offer it these days. But that's what's required. So, I don't know what it's going to be for us, and I can't tell you that. We tend to be more business-oriented in many respects in Costa Rica, but at the same time, health-oriented as well. We have to be, since everything we've gone through. There's a great deal of pressure here for the business community, as you might imagine, to open things up as soon as possible. There has been a request. Everybody understands the need for tests, but the idea of having to have a 14-day quarantine for tourists is not, would require basically that you come to the country for at least 14 days. They're strongly opposed to. I'm hoping that can get straightened out by the middle of October. I understand what they're talking about. And it's not the same as when you're a resident or you're a citizen and you have a place to go when you get here. So they have to make some judgments there, and they will. Okay. Now, I am thinking that, fundamentally, I think what I'm really basically trying to say to you is that everybody in society gets a chance to speak. It's going to be in all the newspapers. The opposition will have its comments to make. And we do have opposition, of course, and we have many different viewpoints. But a policy will become official, and it will be announced, and I'll be sharing it with you as it comes available to us here to get you prepared. At the moment, I'm liking the idea of October 12th. I'm feeling good, I suppose, because we've done so well recently in bringing rates way down. However, you never know. And maybe what we're doing now and opening up, somebody is stupid enough to go out and really mess things up. We have super spreaders too, and they need to know better. And anyhow, we hope that we can get through this next few weeks without too much damage, so that we can indeed open the borders. I'm hoping, frankly, the number one thing I want to see is what Abbott Laboratory says it has, which is a test that can tell you, it's simple, you can do it at home. It's 15 minutes to get a result, and it's $5 to pay. I mean, please, something like that is going to be so useful that you could actually arrive at the airport and have, if you're smart, you would have gotten tested back home, make sure you didn't have to turn around and go back. But you would, if there was a requirement for it, when you arrived, you could have it done immediately at the airport and allowed to go without any further concerns. But we'll see. Believe me, there are people out there rooting for you. I will be spending my time, as I'm doing now, talking to people in real estate, trying to get them off their butts and come up with something a little bit more original and a little bit more useful to people to encourage sales and rentals here, because we're not good at that. We don't innovate. The problem is it's been anyhow. And that one sector, real estate sector, is behind the times when it comes to this sort of thing. I know, because I've been banging my head against that brick wall for years here, and it's not an easy thing to get through. But always keep working on it. This has been a good shocker for them. I hope that they're more open to considering a wider range of possibilities. Anyhow, so I'm looking at all of that to also be able to share what I see coming. But the real fact of the matter is this. If you're interested in buying or renting, and if you're going to live here, you're going to do one or the other, then you need to be here, and they need to see you, and they need to hear from you, and you need to hear from them. And by them, I mean, of course, the sellers. And it's going to work itself out. Any guesswork as to what the average price is going to be when you come, before people come down? I mean, what is just people talking? How do they know? They can't know. We need to see some of that interaction, and I'm going to be looking at a lot of that, especially in the first few weeks, to get some sense of what's going on. Things will settle out, but it's not going to happen immediately. It's going to be work to get it done initially. And we'll find out who really, really, really needs to sell and who doesn't really, really, really need to sell, and so forth. But out of it all will become some good ideas, and I definitely expect some good deals. Now, we already had some before the pandemic because of the overbuilding, both along, especially in the beach coast, but in the city as well. So that was already in place, but I expect there'll be, especially for sales, even perhaps lower prices. The beaches have their own challenges they have to deal with, which I've talked about before. I'm still thinking rentals there are the best shot, but we'll see. Everything's going to get much clearer in weeks to come, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of you when you come down, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you very much for stopping by.